I would like to use some of my really big buttons on here. So I'm going to just do a mark where the start and the end of my buttonhole goes, because this machine that I'm working on, I will show you in a minute, has a manual buttonholer. Okay, if we're able to do this. I think I'm going to change the presser foot. It's a tea towel after all. Okay, got to get it the right way. First of all, establish what direction your machine sews a buttonhole in. If it sews forwards first, I'm sorry, I'm just getting myself aligned here. If it sews forward first, you obviously want to start your buttonhole at the far side, away from you. Hold on 1 second, let's get this set up for you. If your machine sews a buttonhole backwards first, you obviously want to start at the end of your buttonhole, the one closest to you. This is a Bernina 1000 special, so it's all manual. And here's my buttonhole foot. The only thing I need to do is change the stitch length. And to do that, I turn this dial. And I know to get a nice dense buttonhole, I want to be close to 0. So I'm going to put it sort of at half. That setting over there on about half. And this is what you have to dial in. So we're going to dial the buttonhole knob to position 1 first of all. And then I'm going to stand you here and hopefully it doesn't wobble too much while I'm doing this. My apologies if it does. Okay, I've got my tea towel on my lap so it doesn't pull on my buttonhole. As I said, I'm going to start at the end of my buttonhole because I know this buttonhole goes forward. So the first thing it's going to do is zigzag, and this gives me an opportunity to make sure my satin stitch is dense enough. Finish with the needle in the up position and then turn my dial to position number 2. Then going to do a bar. Oh no, it goes backwards in a straight stitch first. Because it's manual, you need to watch where to stop. Needle up, turn it to position 3. Does a bar tack for you. You can do as many stitches as you like. Turn it to position 4. It's now going to zigzag along that straight row it's just done. And once again, it is a manual machine, so you have to watch for when to stop. Needle in the up position, turn it to 5. And 5 is the opposite end's bar tack. And then finally 6 is going to do a little row of dense straight stitches to end it off. And there you have it. So let me take it off the machine and show you the buttonhole that it's made. As you can see, I've made really big buttonholes in this case because I wanted to. I want to use some of those really crazy big decorative buttons that I've got hanging around here. So there you go. There's a beautiful buttonhole. Now your challenge, being a manual machine, is to make the next one exactly the same. So we turn the dial clockwise only. So it's now on 6. Goes back to 0 and then back to 1. And we are going to do buttonhole number 2. So starting at the end, making sure it's a similar distance from the edge this way and front to back, so that the bar tacks are in a similar place. And we start again. Go until we reach our line. Needle up, position 2. It's going to straight stitch to the beginning. Stop when you're a stitch away. Needle up, position 3 is our bar tack. Position 4. Stop when it gets to here, needle up. Always needle up, because if you notice when you turn the dial, the needle jumps backward and forward. You don't want that to be in the fabric while that's going on. Now I'm going to do the bar tack across the top. Position 6 is the final straight stitch to anchor your thread. Pull that off the machine. snip your threads. Sorry if my hand is in the way. Could have put the phone, I suppose, on the opposite side. There you go. You've got 2 buttonholes now, which are exactly what I wanted. Last bit, if you don't have a chisel, buttonhole chisel, then you can use your quick unpick and cut your buttonholes, or a very sharp pair of scissors to put in there and cut. So you put a pin across the top so that you don't have an accident and by mistake cut all the way through the end of your buttonhole. So you pop your needle, the point of your unpicker in there, and very carefully making sure you're in between your 2 rows of stitches. That's very important. Otherwise, your fabric around the cut will fray and your buttonhole will be basically useless. So there we have cut this one. And we do the same on this side. Pop your needle in at that bar tack. And that's purely your insurance policy. Pop your thingy in there. And then cut along. Stopping, obviously, where your pin is. Take your pin out. Et voila! You have 2 beautiful buttonholes. I'm going to do a little close-up of the buttonhole stitch on this machine again. So I've drawn a line for what is the top of my buttonhole and the bottom of the buttonhole. If you want, you can also put a line down the middle so that you can then line up this part of your presser foot if you've got one. I'm going to, as you can see, the line moves there in the eye of the buttonhole, the presser foot here. So I want to line that up so that it's in the center, and then also that's lined up with the line on my machine. To press the foot there. Just going to fold in this little tab so that I can get a bit closer for you. Set your machine onto the buttonhole 1. Remember to have your needle out of the fabric at that point. When I did that, you may have noticed that this, which is the width of the buttonhole stitch, the zigzag stitch, changed automatically. But this won't change. This is where you adjust the length of your stitches, because that determines how far apart your zigzag stitches are. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start off on number 1, and we're going to show you how it works. I'm stopping on my second line. I've actually gone over it, but that's all right for this demonstration. And now change to number 2 on there, and that's now changed as well. And then I do some stitching. On this stitch it goes, on this machine it goes back first. Now I'm stopping in the same place I started. Take the needle out of the fabric, turn your dial to number 3. It's now gone to a wider stitch width because it's going to do bar tack at the end. Then you change to the next step, which is 4, and it's going to zigzag all the way back down. Oops, gone over. Sorry about that. Pretend I didn't go over. And then, so what I'm going to do is just pick it up and put it back again. This is what happens when you've got one hand with a camera in it. Change over to number 5, and it's changed back again. It's going to do a bar tack at the end for us. Then you change to number 6, and it's going to do a straight stitch down the side of your buttonhole to anchor your stitches. And there you have it, a completed buttonhole. Now, personally, I would prefer my buttonhole stitches to be a little bit closer together. So I'm going to adjust my stitch length. And I'm going to go back to 1 and we're going to repeat the process. So 1, it's going to stop on my line, needle up, turn to 2, it's going to go backwards, I'm going to stop in the same place as started, a nice bar tack, needle up, step 3, coming back down, needle up, step 5 is the bottom bar tack, and step 6, anchor your thread, and there you have it. Very nice buttonhole on the Bernina 1000 special. Bonus content. Yeah, that's what they say, don't they? Anyway, I thought I'd just give you a quick show of how I do buttonholes on my sewing machine. I'm going to check that I've aligned you to where you should be so you can see what I'm doing. Hold on, be patient. Right, that'll be fine. I've chosen 2 large buttons that I know will go through these large buttonholes. Okay, first thing to do. I then line up my fabric, make sure I know where I want the buttonholes to go. The buttons, not the buttonholes. I know where the buttonholes are already. And I'm going to put a pin in just to mark the location of the top of the buttonhole because you want to be careful where you put them. If I put them where I put the pin now, I've just realized that's wrong, because when you pull on this, the button is going to slide to the bottom of the buttonhole. What I want to actually do is make sure that when the button is attached and it slides, it's going to sit where I want it to. So I'm going to put these ones here and here. I then pull the pins through the buttonhole, leaving them there as a mark. If you're worried that you're going to ride over your pins, just put a mark where you're going to put your buttonhole, your button. Oh my word, take your pins out. Now, some of you are going to think this is crazy. You can't do a button on a sewing machine. Well, I can tell you, you definitely can. I've been doing this for a very long time and it works perfectly. You do get presser feet, which are just for doing buttonholes, buttons. Oh, Michelle. Okay, for putting on a button, but you don't have to have one if you're just very careful. I'm putting my stitch length back on 0. I'm turning my dial back to 0. I'm going to put my stitch width, which is the zigzag, to 3, because the holes in these are probably about 3 or 4 millimeters, and we're going to test that in a second. So let's just line it back up here. I've got a mark. I'm going to pop my button onto that mark. If my button is uneven, I'm going to put this tab underneath it so that the foot can lie nice and straight. Okay, remember the reason we did that. The other thing that I love to do, and I don't always do this, but I'll do it for the camera so that you can see that it's doable. Put a piece of sellotape or washi tape or whatever tape you've got that'll come off easily. Line your button up with your mark and stick it down. Okay, I'm going to pop this little thing under here so it sits flat. I may only need 1 for the height. Okay, put it underneath your presser foot. so that you can clearly see where your needle is going to go. Put your presser foot down, lower your presser foot, and turn your needle using the hand wheel on the side until it goes into either of the holes. You keep turning your hand wheel manually. Now, I can see straight away that on the right is going to hit the middle of the button. So I need to increase the width of my zigzag. So I'm going to go to 4 for now and see, still not enough. I'm going to go to 5. These are big buttons, so they generally have a much bigger hole. The swing is now too big to the left, so I'm going to turn it back down to 4. This is where, if you're doing lots of buttons, it's quite handy to do this a few times manually so that you get it absolutely in the center. Okay, I now know it's in the center and I can slowly zigzag. Remember, my stitch length is on 0, so my needles and my feed dogs aren't moving. And I just go up and down a few times to make sure it's anchored really well. I'm done. That's button number 1. Relift your presser foot. Take your tape off. Transfer it to your other button. Move it across. You can clip your threads at this point if you want, but I don't need to. I'm going to line up my second button over here. I'm going to put my little lifter underneath the back of the presser foot. Wow, these holes even look bigger. So I'm going to try that stitch width again. I never assume, because I love mismatched buttons, never assume that the buttonholes are exactly the same. And when I'm saying buttonholes, and this time I mean the holes in the button itself are exactly the same distance apart. Every single button, unless it's identical out the bag, I test. So do that as many times as you feel you need to. I'm a bit obsessive. And then you're done. Clip that off. There are my snips. Clip that off, and then at the back I'll cut them off in a bit. Right, there you go. Tape off. 2 buttons attached very securely. If, like me, you're worried that these are going to come undone, like so many ready-to-wear off-the-shelf items you buy in the shop, they lose their buttons all the time. Go put a dot of fabric glue or nail polish or something like that onto the button, and it will be fine. And there we have it. Fold it over. Pull my buttons through. You can pretend it's hanging up. And look how cute that looks. I've just selected plain grey buttons for this one. There we have it. One very nice garment for the kitchen. And the buttons are nicely secured. Oh, I need to clip that little tail there. And that is going to look very nice in the kitchen. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has really helped you learn how to make these lovely projects, how to make a buttonhole on a manual sewing machine like this Bernina 1000 Special, and also how to attach buttons. Have a lovely day, folks. Bye-bye.